Many thanks for staying with us on the program. Election violence and why we see these senseless killings during elections. That's what gotten us talking, and specific attention to Rivers State. Why are we putting that attention there on Channels Television? We value lives, and sure that you know that we're making sure that everybody's life will be saved during that exercise on March 19, 2016, when everybody in Rivers State will go to the polls. And that's why we're making these educative episode of the program. Professor Chidi Odinkalu has been talking to me on the program. Well, you can go ahead and still talk to us. I'm seeing some of your tweets and some of your emails. Go ahead and let's have some more, and I'll read a few on the program before we close. Prof, all of these things that we saw, you've painted a scenario of what happens in the creeks, in those areas that are mostly water. But one would be wondering some of the issues relating to the outcome of the Supreme Court judgment are some things that brings to mind, because Rivers State has a big one too at the Supreme Court. Are you bothered that, for example, the card readers didn't come out buoyant, good, bright, at the Supreme Court judgments?
Look, I've given you my personal view as a citizen on the jurisprudence of electoral dispute resolution. I think the judiciary lives in la-la land. I'm sorry. And I genuinely think as a citizen, our judges have to sit down and ask themselves questions about, is this the kind of country they want to live in? And it's no use retiring as a judge at 70 and complaining you're not getting your pensions. And then you want us to worry why you're not getting your pensions. When you had the opportunity as a judge to set things right, you didn't. And you authorized Rambo jurisprudence and Rambo politics and do-it-yourself politics. And that's the kind of thing that you're having with the jurisprudence coming out. There is nothing wrong with the card reader. I don't think that any jurisprudence that puts us in a situation in which politicians should be deploying self-help and violence to author electoral results that have nothing to do with field outcomes or the participation of the people should be welcomed by any jurisprudence at all.
You think the outcome of the aftermath of those court cases could affect what could happen in
Oh, absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Basically what the courts have said is go into the field, do whatever you can, as long as you can overwhelm whoever is on the ground and write your own results. We will do nothing about it. We'll look the other way. That, for me as a citizen, is offensive. It's troubling.
So there are fundamental problems with some of the judgment. That's what you're saying?
That exactly is what I'm saying. And let me be very clear. I'm not one of, I don't belong to any party. I don't support any party. I'm not into the business of saying judges were given money or not given money. No, that is not what I'm saying. So people don't misunderstand me. What I'm saying is on the face of the judgments themselves, the judgments lack any bearing with the reality of Nigerian politics. And the judgments, with all due respect as a citizen, are irresponsible. And I'm happy to go on record on that and to be taken on that. The judgments are irresponsible, do not reflect the place of the judge as a citizen and as a guardian of public resources, responsible to make sure that government resources are spent responsibly. Where government has acted lawfully, number one, in procuring a technology that should advance our elections. Number two, in making sure that the procurement goes through due process. Number three, in ensuring that the funds are properly appropriated under the Appropriation Act. You don't just sit down because you think you're in the Supreme Court and write that away.
Prof,
that is irresponsible.
When we have about 5 Supreme Court judges, we come out unanimous.
And I'm saying citizens have a right to take a view on what the judiciary says or does.
But do we have
the judiciary can't just run amok because we are judges.
Does any Nigerian have a choice after the
Just as politicians cannot run amok because they are politicians, and legislators cannot run amok because they are legislators, all these people are subject to Section 14 of the Constitution, which says what? Sovereignty belongs to the people.
Can anybody do anything?
We are the people.
Prof, can anybody do anything anyways after the Supreme Court judgments?
The people can say this is our country, and you know what? The card readers are essential for our elections.
But what about the fact that in some of these defenses in the courtrooms, some of these prayers were not even included in the cases? What about that?
What prayers?
There are prayers about the card readers.
What prayers?
That they cannot even prove that the cases were the rigging, and they cannot. Some of the lawyers cannot even prove that the elections were rigged.
Now, for the original sin in this, you have to go back to Buhari and Yaradua, which was 2008, where the Supreme Court actually said that it could not pronounce on any general principles governing elections. Now, the Electoral Act in 2006 actually specified that elections should be governed by certain general principles. The Supreme Court has refused to pronounce on the general principles governing elections. And instead, what happens is that in every election, with every election cycle, the jurisprudence goes more wacky and wonky. And now the jurisprudence is in a place where you can't even do anything anymore with it. Nobody understands it. It has no rationality. And elections are rational things. What is it? If government performs well, the people reward it with a fresh mandate. If government fails to perform well, the people punish it with withdrawal of the mandate. Now you're in a situation in which the Supreme Court jurisprudence has removed rationality from the electoral process. If government performs poorly, it wins more votes. If government doesn't perform, it wins many more votes. And whatever happens, the Supreme Court ratifies that. That is offensive.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Prof. Professor Chidi Odinkalu, a former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, talking to us about the issues of election violence and some of the cases that came out of the court. Many thanks for having you.